You could stand inside the most magnificent palace on earth, and the building itself would still tell you exactly how small you were. Not by a guard, not by a sign, by the number of statues on a roofline, by a staircase you were forbidden to climb, and by a walk across an empty courtyard designed to break your nerve before you ever reached the throne. Inside these walls, 5 things were reserved for one man. And the strangest of them is a rule the emperor broke himself, deliberately, and the reason why is the best part. If you look up at the sloping roof ridges of the Forbidden City, you'll see a line of small ceramic figures marching in single file. They look like decoration. They were never decoration. Each procession is led by a man riding a phoenix and closed by an imperial dragon, and between them stand ranks of mythical beasts whose faces you wouldn't recognize unless you grew up inside Chinese folklore. The phoenix that brings virtue and harmony, the lion that wards off evil, the seahorse that brings good fortune, the heavenly steed that shows strength and speed, the swan knee, which looks like a lion crossed with a dragon and guards the building with raw strength, the Yayu, a fish-like dragon that summons wind and storms to protect against fire, the strange creature called Xieji, which is said to judge right from wrong, and the bull-like Do Nu, which guards against evil omens as a second line of defense. Some traditions say the man on the phoenix was once a greedy official who was punished by being placed on the roof, watched by the beasts below who would devour him if he strayed again. To a visitor from the 1400s, these weren't ornaments, they were a legal readout posted on the roofline for everyone to see. The number of beasts tells you exactly how important the building is, and the counts are always odd. A minor hall might carry 3. A more important one might carry 5. The halls where the emperor actually sat could carry 9 because 9 is the largest single digit and 9 belonged to the throne alone, while the odd numbers matched male authority and imperial power through the Yang principle. But there's one roof in all of China that carried 10, and it sits on the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the largest wooden hall in the country and the ceremonial heart of the empire. Qing regulations permitted 10 only here, and that rule was so strict that no other palace, temple, or official hall in the entire empire was allowed to match it. The 10th figure has its own name, Hangxi, which means ranked 10th, and you won't find it on any other roof in the Forbidden City or anywhere else in the empire. We will come back to why the emperor needed a 10th guardian when nobody else was allowed more than 9. So a servant walking below could glance up, count the animals on a ridge, and know exactly who slept inside. The roof was doing paperwork in ceramic. And the thing is, these figures had a second job. They sit at the most vulnerable points of the roof, the ridge intersections where wind could lift a tile and water could seep in to rot the wooden frame beneath. Their placement was never only ceremonial, it was structural. They were guardians in 2 senses at once, guarding the roof physically and the social order visibly. The emperor didn't need to post a guard at every door when the palace announced who mattered and who didn't. If you want to see the rest of what one man reserved for himself, then do subscribe and stay with me. This is where we sit with how power in Asia truly worked, slowly, the way it deserves. Those statues told you your rank from a distance, but this next thing told you something worse, because it told you what you weren't allowed to touch. At the center of the great ceremonial terrace, behind the Hall of Preserving Harmony, lies a single carved slab that stretches over 16 meters long and more than 3 meters wide. It's carved with dragons drifting through clouds, and it weighs roughly 250 tons. The thing isn't a step, it's a ramp, and it was the emperor's alone. Everyone else, every minister, every prince, every general who had bled for the dynasty walked up the narrow side stairs. Only the emperor was carried over that central surface in his sedan chair. The most important man in the empire crossed the one piece of stone that nobody else was permitted to touch. And the builders made sure you couldn't miss the point. The stone was hauled roughly 70 kilometers from the quarries at Fangshan, dragged on ice roads in the dead of winter by thousands of men and mules. Workers dug wells every 500 meters along the route and poured water onto the frozen ground to create a slick surface so the massive block could slide toward the palace with just enough momentum to keep moving. Some accounts say the hauling alone required 20,000 men and thousands of animals working in shifts. The operation took about 28 days, and it was staged in the coldest months because warm weather would have made the whole method useless. All of that effort went into a single ramp that existed so that nobody else could use it. The ramp was a single carved statement, and you weren't allowed on it. The staircase told you what you couldn't touch. The next thing worked on you without you even knowing it was happening. And then there's the part that wasn't an object at all, the part that worked on you before you ever reached the throne. There are no trees outside the Imperial garden in the Forbidden City. That isn't an oversight, and it isn't because the builders forgot to plant them. It's because anyone approaching a major gate had to face a long, exposed walk across wide, open stone with nothing to look at and nowhere to rest the eye. Between the outer sections, high-walled alleys close in and turn, creating the sense of being a mouse inside a maze. The Association for Asian Studies notes that these high-walled alleys can create the intimidating sense of being a mouse inside a maze. A visitor walking the central axis would pass through the Meridian Gate, cross a vast stone square, enter the Gate of Supreme Harmony, and only then reach the first major hall, with each step making the throne seem farther away and the walls seem higher. The courtyards were built to a proportion that focused every eye on the elevated throne, and the acoustics were shaped so that the emperor's voice would carry while everyone else's was swallowed by the space around them. The same source notes that this emptiness was intended to foster deep meditation before an audience, but the meditation it fostered wasn't peaceful. It became the meditation of a person who has just realized how far they have to walk, how small they look against the stone, and how alone they are in the middle of a palace built for one. By the time you knelt, the building had already done the work. It had made you feel your size. It had made you feel your distance. And it had made you feel, in your body, before your mind could argue, that the man at the other end of that courtyard wasn't merely powerful, he was inevitable. This is the mechanism we're tracking through every item on this list. The roof guardians told you your rank with statues. The staircase told you what your feet couldn't touch. The emptiness told you what your body was worth. Let me ask you something. If you had walked that courtyard, all that open stone, and no place to rest your eyes, do you think you would have felt awe or fear? Tell me below. I read every answer. Once you know what to look for, you can't unsee it. The building was counting. 9 was the emperor's number, the greatest single digit, and the architects buried it everywhere once you know to look. The 4 corner watchtowers each carry 9 roof beams, 18 pillars, and 72 ridge poles, and when you add them together, you get 99. The 9-dragon screen, which stands in front of the Palace of Tranquil Longevity, is faced with 270 glazed tiles, and that number is divisible only by 9 and by 5. In Imperial address, the Emperor was called the Majesty of 9 and 5, and the screen was doing arithmetic at you while you admired the dragons. In Chinese, the word Ju means 9, and it also sounds like the word for long or lengthy, so the number carried a double meaning. It wasn't just the biggest digit. It formed a wish for the Emperor's reign to last forever. Even the gates were part of the count. You may remember the emperor's doors, painted bright red and inlaid with 9 rows of 9 golden studs, 81 in all. What I did not tell you then is where the ladder went from there. A prince was permitted 7 rows of 7, which is 49. A lesser official, 5 rows of 5, which is 25. You could read a man's rank with your eyes closed, just by running your fingers across his door. The original Ming halls were designed with 9 bays across their front, so the emperor's number was built into the very width of the building before anyone stepped inside. Copying the emperor's stud count without permission was Jin Yue, which means overstepping rank, and it was treated as one of the gravest offenses against the state. The building wasn't just decorated in yellow and red, it was quantified. And now the design reveals its true character. It looks like superstition. It claimed ownership. Every multiple of 9, every 99, every 81 was a way of writing the emperor's name into the wood and stone so thoroughly that the palace itself became a mathematical proof of his supremacy. You didn't need to believe in numerology to feel its effect. You only needed to walk through a space where every dimension, every tile count, every stud pattern repeated the same digit until the repetition itself became a kind of pressure. And now you can answer the question I left open. If 9 was the largest digit and 9 belonged to the emperor, then 9 was also a ceiling. Every hall in the empire could reach for 9 and go no further. So how does a man who already owns the highest number rise above himself? He does not invent a larger one, he simply adds 1 more. The 10th guardian on the Hall of Supreme Harmony was never a rank. It was proof that the scale had stopped applying to him. Everyone else in the empire was measured. He was the exception. Every important roof in the complex is Imperial yellow, except one, and the reason is the strangest thing in the whole complex. The emperor's own library, the Hall of Literary Profundity, which the Chinese call Wenyuan Gei, carries a black roof. In the same Wuxing cosmology that made yellow the color of earth, and so the emperor's color, black belongs to water, and water fights fire. The hall once held as many as 36,000 books, including parts of the massive Siku Quanshu collection, and the Qing builders were so terrified of a fire consuming that knowledge that they broke their own color code on purpose. You already know the green roofs belong to the Crown Prince, because green meant wood, and wood meant growth. But those were lesser buildings. The Hall of Literary Profundity was an imperial hall in its own right, and it should have been yellow. It looks like an exception. It proved the system. The code was so total, so airtight, that the only way to break it was to use the code's own logic. Black means water, and water means protection. So this one building, which held the empire's collected knowledge, could carry a color forbidden to every other important hall. Even the break in the pattern obeyed the pattern. The emperor didn't bend the rules. He demonstrated that the rules were deep enough to contain their own exceptions. This is what the architecture means when you realize the Forbidden City wasn't a home. It was an argument. And the argument never stopped. The emperors are gone now, but walk into any headquarters built to impress, and you'll cross the same empty floor, ride an elevator you need permission to enter, and take the long approach to a door at the end. The building will do the same work on you that it did on them. Nobody had to tell you where you stood because you already knew. The tool has changed, but the architecture hasn't. Power still uses space to teach you your place before you speak a word. Every rule in this place answered one question, and it was never how beautiful can we make it. It was how close are you allowed to stand. The statues counted your rank from the roofline, the staircase told you what you couldn't touch, the empty courtyards made you small before you arrived, the number 9 wrote the emperor's name into every beam and tile. And the black roof proved that even an exception could be turned back into obedience. In the middle of all of it sat one man, in the one place the entire structure was built to point at. The Forbidden City wasn't a home. It was an argument made in stone that one person was the center of the world. For 500 years, 24 emperors lived inside it, and every minister, foreign envoy, and student who had passed the imperial examinations and earned the right to approach the throne walked through a space that had already decided what they were worth. They agreed, because the building never gave them the chance to think otherwise. If this was worth your time, then subscribe and stay a while. There's more of these hidden rules of power to come, and the next one's already being prepared. I'll see you there. And if you want to know the items that separated nobility from common folk in China, watch this video next.